Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Laura. If you are new here, this channel is dedicated to following my life as a carnivore, how I lost 120 pounds with carnivore diet, my husband's weight loss as well. My mom pops in from time to time. We just talk about food addiction, what we eat for carnivore, and I show you how to cook some steaks at times. We just got back as a family. My mom's in town for Christmas. We got back from Fogo de Chao, where we all got our money's worth, eating a lot of steaks for like a pre-Thanksgiving meal together. I am going to answer some questions that you all submitted through YouTube and then also through Instagram. I have a few questions that I will answer, and then I actually am going to go grab Chris here in a few minutes, and I will have him answer some questions with me because I know you guys had some for him too. So, one of the things I want to remind people about is some of the questions that I was getting are about you and your health concerns. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I am just a mom and a person who is struggling with her food addiction, trying to maintain weight loss, and what my family is going through. So the questions that I can answer are really about like, what have I done? Not what should you do? And so I try to answer those questions now. But one of the most common questions I did get is, how do I get started on carnivore? And I will make a longer video on that, hopefully in the next few weeks, so that as a lot of people are starting in the beginning of the new year, you'll have some insight. My recommendation would be just to start with the what should I eat on carnivore video that I made a few months ago. It's not the specifics that a lot of people want, but it's really the best information that I know how to give you. And that's probably where I could say start, and then just start doing some research, listen to podcasts. One of the questions I was getting was, where do you find carnivore inspiration? And listening to people's stories like Kelly Hogan and, people from Carnivore Cast. When I first learned about carnivore, I had heard about the CarnivoreCast podcast, and I just binge listened starting at the very beginning and all the way through. And the minute I found somebody that I identified with, who had gone through a lot of the same things that I have, like Kelly, for instance, I started searching for their name and finding anything else that I could about them. So if you're looking to get started, those are my two recommendations for you. I was getting, how many times a day do I eat? I still am eating one time a day. I have tried to do twice a day, even as much as a few months ago, and it really spirals for me at that point. And so I feel best, I do best eating one very large meal a day, usually 2 pounds of beef, and then not eating again for another 24 hours. I don't think everybody has to do that. You don't need to force yourself to eat 2 pounds of meat in one sitting if that's not comfortable for you. I'm used to eating a large pizza and a pint of ice cream. So for me, it's comforting to eat a lot at one time. But I don't think that that's necessary for everybody. So the most important thing is just to not eat 6 times a day. So starting with 3 times or even twice is fantastic, and not having snacks all throughout the day is my suggestion. Do I ever eat veggies, or do I miss veggies or want veggies just for the taste of it? While I do think about veggies at times, I have not had any in the last year and a half. I'm not really interested in having them again. The things that I miss for taste reasons are certainly not vegetables. They're things that are much more processed and toxic than that. So I probably won't be having any vegetables anytime soon just because I'm craving them. I do think if you're craving vegetables and they make you feel good, they don't slow you down, they don't make you feel bloated or feel bad or have negative reactions to them, I think you should totally enjoy them as long as you feel good on them and they don't stop you from hitting your goals. But that's where you have to kind of maybe have a talk with yourself and see, if you have some broccoli or a salad every now and again, it's not that big of a deal as long as it doesn't make you feel bad. It just doesn't make me feel good to do that. Which is where somebody asked if I ever have any bloating or anything on carnivore. As long as I'm sticking to meat, beef specifically only, and salt, I have no issues with digestion or bloating whatsoever. It's when I try to incorporate other things, too much cheese or a lot of variety of things, then that's when I would have issues. So if you are having any bloating, I would suggest to go down to beef and salt only, and then stick with that for a couple weeks. See what happens, and then when you start adding other foods back in, see what specifically might be affecting you. Is there a formula? How much protein do I eat? And is there a specific formula for protein? I am hesitant giving out advice on this. I eat a lot of protein a day. I mention a lot. I eat around 200 grams of protein. 2 pounds of ribeye is, essentially 200 grams of protein. I think the minimum that you should strive for is, there's a lot of tips that are given out there, or a lot of people will give you their advice. I like the advice that people give that talks about 1 gram of protein to 1 pound of body weight or lean body weight. So if you are a 150-pound female, you should probably shoot for 150 grams of protein a day. And that's just for your typical sedentary adult. I weigh less than 200 grams, so I am eating 200 grams of protein. I'm totally fine with that. I don't think there's a worry about the max amount of protein that you should be eating for the most part. Loose skin is not something I've addressed on YouTube before. I do talk about it on Instagram. I've shown pictures on Instagram. I think that essentially end of January is 1 exact year of my maintenance. And so I will do a video around that time and show some pictures on YouTube of my skin. It's not as bad as I thought. It should not be an excuse or a reason why you're not starting the diet because you're afraid of loose skin. I hear that sometimes as an excuse. And it's there, and it has continued to shrink over time. From January last year to where I currently am right now is a big difference. And I think that over time it will continue to go away, but maybe I'll show you guys at some point. Weight loss stalls. What happened when I stalled from weight loss? I just cut more things out. I fasted more, and I kind of made some adjustments. I ate leaner. I cut out cheese. I took a break sometimes on exercising. There were times when maybe I had been really working out hard, and just a week break might help me break through that stall. But a lot of it is patience. I will say people think that they are stalled or use the term stalled when they have 1 week with no weight loss. 1 week with no weight loss is not a stall. And so sometimes you just have to be consistent and you have to be patient. And please don't fall into the idea that you need a carb up day, which is essentially where people use that as an excuse to eat a bunch of pizza and ice cream. That's not going to help anything. I promise you, this is not going to help anything. Consistency and time is what's going to help. Make some adjustments though. Eat less often or eat less is not a fun thing to suggest, but that's what it is. Any negative effects from carnivore? At this point, I really haven't had any. I did have quite a bit of the digestiveness adaptation in the beginning. If I overeat, I still might experience some loose stools and things like that. Certainly not any constipation whatsoever, but negative reactions from carnivore at this point, nothing physically, nothing but amazing improvements that I've had from carnivore. Maybe some social awkwardness every now and again, which might be a topic for another video, but really no negative experiences. Will I ever eat non-carnivore again? I don't know at this point. I don't have plans to. I'm scared to. I'm really scared to because I don't know if I'll be able to get back on track again. So for now, I'm very happy eating steaks only. I'm content with where things are. My health is fantastic. And so I never say never. I've learned that. However, at this point, I don't see a reason or a need to. But I'll keep my mind open based on the way that I feel in the future. And then there's lots of questions on kids. I'm going to go get Chris in a second. But before I do, the last thing I want to say about the kids is I still am debating on the video about them. But somebody said, why do you feed your kids vegetables if you think you can get all your nutrients from meat? And while I do believe I can get all my nutrients from meat, I think that they are not as metabolically damaged as Chris and myself were. So they have not had a lifetime of eating processed foods and bad health to set them back where they need to be as extreme as I am now. We are very careful to keep out a lot of processed foods and sugars. I don't think any kid needs to be eating processed foods and sugars every day. They do have some vegetables because they like them. And if they really refused, I don't know if I would force it at this point. But if they want to eat some vegetables after they've eaten protein or after they've eaten steak or eggs, then I definitely am fine with that. The same thing goes with certain fruits in moderation, maybe some nuts and a few other things. But at this point, we're trying to emphasize that they need protein to be strong and to be healthy. And then after that, they can make the choice based on the quality foods that are in our house on what they want to eat. So I'm going to go grab Chris and we'll do some questions with him. All right, so I grabbed Chris and I'm going to ask him some of the questions that you had for him or for both of us A couple kind of rapid fire questions we got was, do you drink coffee?
I do not.
Because it tastes like dirt. Any organ meats whatsoever?
Never, once, ever, ever.
Doesn't taste good. We don't want it. We're not going to do it.
No interest.
At this point, we don't have any reason why we feel like we need it.
I feel great without it, so.
Yeah. Do you drink alcohol?
I do not. I have, but I avoid that at all costs.
We just don't go out or don't need to or don't want the setback from it.
Right.
Do you take electrolytes?
Just a lot of salt on my food. That's the only electrolytes I take.
Same for me too. What about just in a typical day, how much do you eat right now?
Right now I eat about 2 pounds of beef a day. That's just kind of where it's settled in, the amount of food that gets me satisfied in that meal, and then I'm not hungry, for 20 hours, 22 hours after that before I'm really ready to eat again. So that's the perfect amount for me.
When you were in like active weight loss, losing the most weight, were you eating less than that or more than that?
It's pretty consistent about that. As long as I've been one meal a day, it's been about 2 pounds. That's kind of where I'm stuffed and I can't eat anymore, and where I can go 24 hours easily.
What about, so a lot of people have asked us before if we would buy a whole cow or a half a cow. So why, explain to them, I guess we talk about it a lot, but why don't we buy a half a cow or a whole cow?
Well, I'm not exactly opposed to it if we got an outstanding deal where it was really cheap. But
somebody hook us up.
Luckily, we live in a city where within 5 minutes of us is 5 grocery stores that always have meat on sale for $5 or under a pound of ribeyes, New York strips, whatever we want. And to get a whole cow with that kind of quality meat and the cuts that we want all the time, not frozen, not having to freeze them, I think would be, I think we prefer it to not have to do that. And if we lived in the country or something, or away from stores and things like that, we would definitely look into that. Especially
too, you get a lot of ground beef, that option. So if you like ground beef, you could get it, just from a cost perspective, you could just get ground beef cost per pound from a grocery store for cheaper. It depends on, the quality that you're looking for. So for us, it just doesn't make sense because I'm bougie and want ribeyes all day long. Who are some of your favorite carnivore inspirations? Podcasts, videos, like who do you reach out to or who do you listen to for advice?
Obviously Dr. Shawn Baker is a big one. Most of the people that influence me aren't necessarily carnivore. I kind of geek out on the science side of things. So, Amber O'Hearn is a big one. So anytime she gives a talk, I'll watch that. But I follow a lot of the different people in the space. And Ted Naiman is probably, when it comes to weight loss, the greatest of all time, in my opinion.
Which is funny because,
so much and can put everything into a single infographic that gets you to understand how, not only the science of how your body works, what kind of things you can do to put in action to make that happen for you.
Yeah, and he's not even somebody who's strict carnivore, but it's nice because we just understand a lot of his principles and then apply them to our life and how we eat. So I think it's just finding what works for you and who's going to, influence you. Anybody else? Those are the big ones, right?
Those are the big ones. I love podcasts, so I'm listening to CarnivoreCast all the time. Human Performance Outliers podcast, Peak Human. Those are some of the big ones I do listen to. I kind of listen to everybody's different opinions on different things and different science from all different angles, and helps me stay informed and make better choices.
What would you think, now that we're carnivore, we don't have cheat days or anything, what do you consider your carnivore comfort meal, or what's your favorite comfort food on carnivore?
So ever since I can remember in my life, my favorite food was always steak, and my favorite food is still steak. And almost every day I eat steak, and I never get tired of steak. So if I want to be comfortable, I'll eat steak. Some things that I splurge on from time to time are things like cheese. We like to grill bread cheese or halloumi. That's really good, but if I eat too much of it, it gets me in trouble. So I try to limit that. It's also not cheap.
But if we want like a special occasion, we just buy expensive steaks.
Right. I'll get a prime steak instead of a choice steak.
Neither one of us are really big on bone broth or anything like that. So we're not really like going to sit around in the evenings with a cup of bone broth. A lot of people love that, but it's not really our style. So 2 other questions that maybe are a little bit bigger, but do you think that you could have stuck with this for as long as you did if I wasn't? Like, say that I was eating a standard American diet, would you be able to stick with this?
I think it might be pretty difficult, but I was pretty determined when I started this, and the results have been pretty addicting. And I can say it right now that I think I would, but if that stuff was right in front of me all the time, it might be different. So really, I don't know. I do know that it's been a tremendous help having her doing this along with me.
I think too, I've said to people before, I think I would have resent you. It would have caused a lot more problems in our relationship if, you know, you were sitting there eating pizza and ice cream every night. I would want to stab you. And so I think that has helped from a support standpoint. I feel like I have somebody who understands me and who gets what I'm going through and gets the cravings that I might be having or the struggles, or at least wants to center special occasions and anniversaries around things that are not about foods that I can't have. And has really helped, just bring us together in more of a bonding way, I think, than it would have before. And then lastly, do you really, truly think that you are going to be carnivore for the rest of your life?
I do. I have to. I really feel like I don't have a choice for my health, from what my past was and to where I'm at now. And it's the most sustainable thing for me to maintain good health for my kids, for my family. And again, it's steaks every day, so I can't complain.
I think for me, I'm hoping, and I still have this hope, that the longer I do this, the less the emotional need or desires for food will diminish. I see people who've been doing this for 10 plus years and they talk about not having cravings and feeling so good. And so I just hope to continue this long term so that I can get to that place where, I am truly have broken free from this food addiction and can see, like, I really only see that this is the only way that will happen and that it's sustainable for us. So for now, we're healthy, we're perfectly happy, and we're feeling great. And so I think this is where we're going to continue. Thanks.
Thanks, babe.
All right, I hope those questions and answers and time that we have had was helpful. If you have more questions that you want us to answer next time, feel free to drop them below. Don't forget to subscribe and stick around because we will be sharing more with you about our life and family as a carnivore family. Thanks, guys.